In today's episode, we interview Sam Just Casual Han Jr. He's a multimedia producer for the esports organization Evil Geniuses. We talk about breaking into the gaming industry, how to defeat analysis paralysis, and talk about how Sam plans on spicing up content for 2023. If you like the podcast, leave us a 5-star review rating, and be sure to sign up for our free newsletter linked in the show notes. Now, let's get it. What is up? What is up, everybody? Episode 5 of the Odd Man Out podcast. For the audio listeners out there, Saban, how many webcams are there on the screen right now?
There's 3.
There's 3. We're here today, audio listeners and video watchers. We're joined by Sam, a.k.a. Just Casual. Sam, thank you for joining us. You literally just finished work and hopped on a call, so thank you for being here with us today.
Of course, thanks for the invite. I am so excited to talk about content with people other than my internal dialogue. So this will be great.
Yeah. We're gonna allow you. We're gonna hear you fight your demons out loud today. I'm really excited.
boy.
I'm gonna let Sam introduce himself. If you're new to the podcast, just some housekeeping, or new to the stream, make sure you guys follow the stream, follow the podcast, drop a like, rate the show, do all the things that get us higher on the algo, because Saban needs some cash money, right, Saban? Gotta buy some Pokemon cards. We're trying to start an Odd Man Out Pokemon card pack opening operation, but we need some dough. So that's it. You guys know who Saban and I are. We're not going to talk about ourselves today. We're going to start with Sam. Sam, our audio listeners have no idea who you are, so let's just start with a super, Spark Notes version of Sam, aka Just Casual.
Thank you. What a great introduction. So I will keep this as brief as possible, and you guys can pick apart my story and dig into the more interesting things, because it's been a long adventure. So imagine this. I'm sitting in a cubicle, second floor of an old building, gross carpet, gross cubicle. I have a 200-page binder open of all these really specific requirements, because I'm a mechanical engineer working in the oil and gas industry. And on one monitor, I have all these calculations in an Excel spreadsheet. On my other monitor, Word documents that I'm updating. In the tiny right corner, I'm definitely watching LCS for like 3 hours during my workday, with my boss sitting right behind me.
No.
So that's what I was doing for I don't know how many years. This was like season 2, 3 of LCS, when it was like really, really big, and everyone was playing it, right? So all I want to do was get home as fast as possible, cheat as much company time, really using my 5.5-year degree that I worked so hard for, and I get home, play League. And at the time, I was doing a League of Legends podcast. I did it for like 3 years, actually. It was a lot of fun. It was called League of Legends Anonymous, because it was for those addicted to League of Legends, and we just wanted to talk all about League of Legends. So, like I said, I was watching LCS, and I was like, wait, this is getting real. Is this an actual thing? Is this a career? If I were to actually pursue this, would I have to sleep on all my friends' couches in LA and eat like top ramen every single day, right? So I was like, wait, I think it's growing. So I really wanted to get in on it, and I'm like, I have no idea, what is my mechanical engineering degree gonna do, right? I really enjoyed making content, and then I got laid off. Oil and gas was a tough time, and it happens. Esports is experiencing it right now too. Layoffs suck. And eventually I got another job, in a cooler job, working in aerospace industry, making things that go up into space. I was doing the exact same thing there. I was just miserable. I didn't like my job, and all I could think about was I was working on Google Docs, writing show notes for content ideas and things to talk about on the podcast, and what it takes to start a YouTube channel, all this kind of stuff. And that's when I was like, okay, you know what, this is for real. I started figuring out how the heck am I going to get into esports, and I went so many different directions. But eventually, I made some connections, got some freelancing gigs, did a lot of free work. Excuse me. And then I paid off all my debt, and I went to my boss's office and handed him my 2-week notice. I had a job lined up as a community manager for a random Swedish mobile gaming company or something, working remotely, and I didn't do a good job there. I was just as lazy. I was like, "What the heck is going on?" And I realized just like as I gone down that path for the next like year, pretty much thinking that I'd have a job with like an LCS team, TSM, FlyQuest, like anyone. I thought I'd have a job in like 2 months. It took me like 13 more months. But during that time, I networked, I made some really good content with some people, moved out to LA and got a freelance gig in office with Golden Guardians. Um, and then I was in office. It was like maybe like 2 months of freelancing work. And I'm like, I'm gonna do everything I can here for them to be like, Sam, you cannot leave us after these 2 months, right? So I worked more than they like would pay me for. I like chummied up to everyone, right? And try to provide as much value and solve all the problems that they were having. Apparently I did a good job. I was in a meeting with my boss ready to pitch everything, and he's like, "Hey, you want to work here?" I'm like, yes." So I started off like miserable at my desk, and then hoping, being the biggest like League of Legends fanboy, to working for an actual LCS team. So that was really cool. I started as a esports marketing analyst, which pretty much meant I edited like Twitter memes, like on their social channel. And the first year I was there, or first 8 months, I like tripled or quadrupled their social media like views and impressions. I built out like structure with like freelancers to like increase output. I led merch launch, like our first sold out merch launch, and did like the media day that was associated with like the first time Golden Guardians rebranded, which like got I think over like 1 million impressions on social, which is this was the 10th place least popular team in LCS, and I didn't do it myself. We had a great team and awesome people there, but like I worked really hard to make an impact because I was a fan and I wanted to like make esports better in whatever way I could, right? So yeah, I worked there for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Then moved to Seattle, working at Evil Geniuses now. I've been there for just over like a year and a month, and started off as a project manager for the Creator Collective department, which is their like content creators and streamers, not competitors. Although we have a few FGC competitors in that. And then now I'm the multimedia producer at Evil Geniuses. So I'm going to be touching more like esports and creator stuff. So yeah, we'll see how this next year goes.
Wow. That was like, dude, you've done like everything. I had no idea that like you had a secret anonymous podcast that you were like writing for. Had no idea before we were talking today you were an engineer. Like, there's so much to unpack in like what you just said, which is great because there's like you probably could write 3 books on like just advice for newbies with all the knowledge you have.
Maybe with
Jeez.
ChatGPT now, I could actually write something.
Yeah, dude, that's what I've been thinking. I'm like, how am I going to get my memoir done? Like now. So, dude, let's start unpacking because we already know you're cool as hell. We already know you're like like you're decked out in accolade. But like, I know what people really want to know is like, how the hell do they do anything remotely close to what you did? Because like when people look at your bio, they're like, oh, cool, dream job. Like you work in gaming, that's dope. But they don't see what you just explained, like any of that. So I want to dig in more to like something that really resonated with me. You're like, I was miserable. I put in my 2 weeks, and I just started doing things, right? And that's where my gears started turning because what I want to know is like what things, and it's something that's like hard to explain, but I tell people there's like a shift that kind of happens in your mind. When like there's like a physical shift that happens, and I feel like that's what was happening. Can you talk more about like what were you doing? Because you said I was doing certain things, and then I started networking and making connections and blah blah blah. So like, what was that shift for you? And we'll start there from whatever into Golden Warriors.
Yeah. Okay. So I gotta pick something because I think there's like multiple shifts that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most relevant one for like this audience might be uh I I suffer with analysis paralysis, right? And what I see happen with a lot of people that I talk to that like want to get in esports is like they love the idea of esports. They're so passionate that they'll do anything Therefore, they have no idea what they should do or want to do. And I think actually, here's my first hot take. I think it's actually really dangerous, excuse me, and scary to actually be really passionate about something and go for that. Because one, I think, especially if you're young and you can take a lot of risk and you have lots of time, because I mean, seriously, who cares if you suffer for 2 years when you have for a like 30-year, 40-year career that you really enjoy, right? Um, if you chase after your passion versus what's like might be a good opportunity, it could be a really like fruitful journey, or it could be a really, really grueling, difficult journey that's really sad and depressing for a long time. Like that's if I wanted to be like an influencer and content creator, like I would have hit a wall really hard, like a Pokemon or like a big one, right? That's making like millions. I would have hit a wall really hard and like hit my head against that wall many times before I realized like I might not have what it takes to do that, right?
Mm.
But that's something I'm really, really passionate about. But instead, I go like, let me try out all these things. Where are the opportunities that can really get me easily in esports? Which I did. I figured out like I can learn how to video edit, and I know how to do it. I can figure out how to do it faster than people and tell better stories because I'm the biggest fan and I digest more content than anyone else does about League of Legends. So therefore, I will edit circles around someone else that can make the prettier thing, the more fancy thing, the better color graded thing than me. But I will make something that will get more retweets on your social channel, right? Like that's where my goal was, and that's where I saw opportunity. Then I proved myself like during situations, and that's how like I kept like getting promoted and getting better and better projects, those kind of things. Sorry, I've like gone off the rails a little bit. So the moment that I got over my analysis paralysis and just started going in a direction was huge because first of all, I think it's important to know that you're gonna be wrong and it's gonna be bad the first 1, 5, 10, 100 times, right? Like if it's creating content, if it's like your career, whatever, maybe you're lucky and you get it right the first time. But if I didn't get that, I wanted to be a community manager and I went into that direction and I realized like I didn't like it and I was bad at it. And then after 3 months, I stopped that and I pivoted. And I'm like, I want to be social media managing. So I started doing that. I learned a ton that's made me super dangerous that year, 5 years later, now, because I know that stuff. But I also realized like I want a different work life balance than what that future is going to hold for me. So eventually I found my way. And even now, I'm like, do I want to do production? Do I want to do strategy? Do I want to manage people? Like, these are all questions that I'm still struggling with. But the thing is, like, you need to spend some time to think about like what your strategy is, but you need to go because even the last 2 years, I haven't really made content. And I thought, like, if I just started one of those days, then I would have been making content for 2 years. But instead, I've just thought about it, stressed out about it, and not made anything, and I haven't learned anything or made myself a better content creator or anything like that now. So analysis paralysis, get over it and just go and give yourself the freedom to fail because you're gonna fail and that's totally fine because you learn from it. You learn so much from it.
I love that answer. I want Saban if to come up with a question from that. And while Saban comes up with a question, because I saw his mind kind of going in a couple different ways. Sam, for the audience who may not know, what is the analysis paralysis? Like,
Ah,
what is the definition of analysis paralysis?
yeah, I should have thanks for saying bring that up. Basically you just think yourself in a circle and you don't move forward, right? So if I am trying to figure out what's the best YouTube channel that I can make, and I'm like, I play Valorant, I play League. Oh, I can talk about esports careers. Um, Let me write down the pros and cons, right? Okay, I did that. Oh, I just saw this video and it says like, oh, like career content is like has high CPMs, so I can make more money off of that. Okay, so I'm gonna like scrap all those Valorant VODs that I made and like start focusing on that. And then I'm like into one script and like, wait, oh, I wanna do League, so I go play League, and then you don't move forward because you're thinking too much versus like just go in a direction, fall on your face, get to a dead end and know like you're done, and then go to option two, then go to option three, go to option four. And you during that, like none of that is wasted time and you'll make steps forward.
Dude, That sounds so familiar, doesn't it, Saban? Saban, you've worked in esports too, so I feel like you have a really unique perspective on like everything that Sam's saying. Is there anything that's like really resonated with you so far, or like any questions that you have for Sam that maybe like you would want to ask him? Because I'm sure if you ask it, somebody else is gonna have the same question.
I think it'd be interesting to know like how you deal with your analysis paralysis. Like what are some tips to like get out of that funk once you get in it from your perspective?
Oh god, that's such a good question. And it's something that I need to answer because I'm dealing with it super heavily right now at work. I think actually now that when you ask that, right? We've had a restructure at Evil Geniuses, so my previous boss is not my current boss. But I think Taylor, is who's one of the best bosses I've ever had. If not the best, probably the best boss I've ever had. She she just pushed me to go, right? She's like, "You have an idea, just go." So I think it's actually like the accountability. If you're able to have someone, a friend, a boss, or someone to just like get you moving, and also like even just be a talking board, right? That can help you overcome some of those hurdles, get out of your head, and like this has to be a person you can trust because they need to call you out on your like BS, right? Half the time you're procrastinating is because like maybe you just like don't care enough to do it, right? Maybe actually like you want the lifestyle of whatever you're talking about, but you actually don't want to do the work for it, and like that's fine. You just need to be honest and need that honest person to let you know those things. So I really think like the easiest way is accountability. You need someone, an outside perspective, to be like, hey, you're doing it again. Stop. At least for
That
me, I can't figure it
yeah.
out.
It's like an accountability buddy, you know? It's like on days that I really don't want to work on like any content, like Saban's just like, "Hey, like what's next? Like what are we doing? Are we posting? Are we editing? Are we going to film today?" And I don't know, maybe vice versa. Like there's days that Saban doesn't feel like recording or like like clipping things. Like I don't know. I just feel like that resonates really deeply with what we're doing, and people will look at like something like this and be like, wow, I have to do all of this, and I'm like, dude, we're still having the same struggles, like the same like hurdles. It's the same exact hurdles, and people are like, oh, it'll change when you get more fans or more followers or more views. But the truth is it like won't. Like this is the game, this is the grind. And just like failing, because like all that time you mentioned, like you just weren't failing for those 2 years, so you weren't really learning anything. um yeah, that's like super deep. Save, do you have anything, any add-ons you want to ask or add on to that?
Uh kind of just, beating it in that, sometimes you gotta fail to succeed. That's the first step towards success is just like going for it, seeing what does and doesn't work, and then going from there.
Love it. Saban, TLDR Saban. I'm going to add like clan tag for you. All right. So we talked about analysis paralysis. We talked about all of the things. We talked about the shift. The shift is like super important. And like I never hear it talked about. So I'm really glad we got to
Mhm.
touch on that. So your shift happens. You're making content for your dream job, right? Like the dream job that most people would be like, this is cool. Let's start with, once you have that job, did anything change like for you? Or was like what is it like when you start a job where you're like, dude, this is my dream job? Like is it stressful? Where do you start? And like what does that journey kind of look like? Cuz I know it's got to be terrifying.
Yeah, this is something I would love to talk to more people about, like what their experience is. Because I mean, everyone likes to think they're unique, and I have no idea if my story is unique or not. How I feel about it, I feel like it is, but it might not be. Um, I mean, no, I'm pretty sure most people dealt with this. I had a huge imposter syndrome. I was like, oh my god, I tricked a company to hire me now. They have no idea. See, hey, guess what? No one in esports knows what they're doing. No one in any I worked in multiple engineering companies that are like Fortune 500. They don't know what they're doing either. It's crazy. But like that's the thing. Like people are smart enough and capable enough to to work through it and figure it out. And that's like what makes it work. Um oh my god, where was I going? What was the question again?
So you just get the job, you're just starting.
Ah,
Where do you start? Right? Because
yeah.
you tricked your way into a company, which is amazing, but like now how do you
Mhm.
keep up the facade?
Yeah, so the hard thing was with that imposter syndrome, I was doing everything I could to prove myself, and like I'll give something more tactical after I'm done with this like anecdote that I've learned that I didn't execute on, but I have been, especially at Evil Geniuses. Um, but I was just like working long hours to impress and to solve whatever problems I could and to do like a really good job. I lost so much sleep because I spent like 2 days editing a video like covering an LCS game. I watched those matches over and over and over again, listen to them with the mic checks, with the voice comms on, trying to figure out like what's the funny moment that I can put out here and make some like original piece of content. Like what's the anime reference that I can pull out of my butt like in this? Like what's and then I edit something. I'm like, this is not funny. This no one wants to share this. This is not gonna go viral. Like I put so much pressure on myself. I lost so much sleep. Um, but I just kept doing that over and over and over again. Uh to like validate myself and to like prove to everyone else that I belonged here. And it was stressful, but luckily, like the team, I don't know how rare this is. It was rare in engineering, but the team was awesome. Like I love the people I was working with, and we were able to get like so much cool stuff done. We were definitely punching above our weight class there. Um, what I've learned now is to, like, what do you do on your first like 90 days? Like, how do you have a successful first 90 days? And I think like literally, that is talking to as many people and networking, like, with your coworkers, getting visibility with, like, upper management so they know who you are and what you're working on. Figure out a way to, like, 1, do your job well, right? Like, get everything done on time, show up to meetings on time, all the like, be the best, like, good student, good employee you can, and then, like, listen and observe, and then figure out, like, who's important in your career growth or like your needs at a company, right? Like projects that you might want to be a part of, departments that you might want to be a part of, those kind of things. Figure out what their problems are and how you can solve them. And right, like you cannot let your own work slip. So you got to do that and get better and better at that and find the extra like 20% of your day um because you're good at your job to like start reaching out and solving other people's problems. I think that's like that is one of the most effective ways, uh, starting a job to like move forward and to get yourself like really solidified in a company. That might not be everyone's goal, but that's what I did at EG. Like I did everything I could. I had lots of one-on-ones with like people that I should not be like having one-on-ones with because they're so much more important than me, right? Um, but that got me a lot of visibility. It's also playing a little bit of the politics, which I hate, but like, hey, if you can't complain about the patch, like that's what the game is, right? You either deal with it or quit.
Yep.
And yeah, it was literally just like figuring out your foothold, figuring out people's problems, and how do you solve those problems and the important problems. That's big.
Important problems. Dude, that was so tactical. Like just it's I've literally have never heard of, maybe I've read it one time in a book like 5 years ago, but making your first 90 days count. Like I
Yeah.
never considered like breaking the task down because you're like, "Oh, I got a new job. I'm here like maybe on a salary for the first time." And you're like, "Oh, I have a year." Uh so breaking it down into the first 90 days of like actionable steps is freaking awesome. Like that's crazy. Applying gamer terms to real life. Yeah, we're real gamers up in here. Saban, have you ever heard the 90-day thing? Cuz like you've joined jobs like, with me through like different companies and different like contracts. What do you do when you first like have you ever thought about the first 90 days, or you just kind of like jump in and start?
Kind of just jump in and start, honestly. I think that I haven't been with too many companies where I was in that like solidify my spot rather than just like let's be as good as I can for right now and see where it goes.
Yeah, yeah. That's just like that's something that I feel like you can even do when you're making like a YouTube channel, right? Like because when you're first starting, like even just as simple as a YouTube channel, there's like a million tasks that you have to do, like thumbnails, branding, like the everything, the channel art, writing the first videos, breaking your YouTube channel into like or whatever channel into the first 90 days even. Like that sounds like so much more manageable than just saying, "All right, Save, we got to hit 10,000 subs by a certain day. Go." Like that just sounds terrible.
Yeah,
Um,
where's the 1K, 5K milestones, right?
yeah,
Where's
yeah,
the
you got to break
let's
it
get
down.
no, let's get 15 episodes done, those kind of things, right?
Yeah, let's while we're talking about that, because I feel like, Sam, this is where like you've had so much experience, is like when you're doing your first 90 days, obviously you're setting goals because you're trying to prove your spot and like improve your, like, impress yourself, all of the good stuff that you're doing. Can you talk to us about like, and this can be from Golden Warriors through EG, like when you're making and thinking about content, where do you start in that aspect? So like, I don't know, maybe you can give us like a little brief, like in the process, like what cog in the machine were you for the content team? And then like how you thought about that specific spot, where do you start?
Yeah, so at Golden Guardians, I was making like social content. Like they just be like, "Hey Sam, make us something funny," pretty much, right? And I spend 2 days, 3 days working on like a 30-second clip, an hour clip, or 30-second clip, minute clip, and then I was like doing other social stuff too, um, that like got added to my plate. But honestly, like the first place I start is like, who are we trying to talk to? Who's our target audience, right? And like this is so hard. I struggle with this still. EG struggles with it. If you've ever seen any of their content, everywhere I've been struggled with this. If you don't know who you're talking to, if you don't know who's gonna watch your content, then it's you might waste your time. You might get lucky, right? Maybe you're creating stuff that the audience will just find it, and you're just looking and you just collect people that are interested in like the content, which is great. But and when you have money behind things and deadlines and your job on the line, like you have to be efficient and smart. And especially in esports, like you just have to. If it's my own personal content, then yeah, I could take as much time as I want, depending on what my life looks like. But when you're doing it for someone that like needs it to do well, like you really, really have to think about who your target audience is. And the great thing about my first job was I was making it for someone like me. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm making it someone like me that's a Zoomer. So they have Zoomer brain, and I need to make things that are kind of weird, right? Um, and I think, yeah, that's literally the first place I start. At EG now, I have a little bit more of a team. Uh, it's still very much my first year was a one man show kind of thing, and I've just like kind of worked with freelancers to kind of expand our output. But really, just figuring out who. Actually, that one was a little different because literally the goal was my first year is like we're experimenting, we're building a process, we want to get good reps in. So actually views uh weren't a goal, right? It is going to be now this year because we've had that time, but that target audience wasn't it, and that's when we were focusing on like what's our process? How do we make good content? How do we find freelancers? Those kind of things, right? And that's why they brought me in because I've done that kind of stuff. I've grown YouTube channels to, like with millions of views. I've also failed and flopped many YouTube channels before too. But yeah, I really think when you think about your content, where you want to start off with, you got to think about who the target audience is because especially in a creative team, people like to create things that are creatively fulfilling, but usually that's not your audience. It's nice when it aligns, but when you're making Dota content as a non-Dota person, like that's dangerous. That's what I experienced. I big project of mine at Golden Guardians was GG Melee, right? I didn't play Melee. I played it as a kid a little bit, but I knew that I'm not the person to make this content, but I'm going to get it done. So I hired people, consultants. We had people in-house that are like really, really in the Melee scene, and I relied on them. I did my research, but I always check things with them because they're the people that I'm trying to reach. And I'm not trying to reach myself with that content. I eventually love that content and I like put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I think I know what good content looks like, but I'm still like the voice of it needs to be like authentic or else like it'll flop. So yeah, target audience, like super, super important.
It's like it's always the stuff that sounds really nerdy and textbooky that like content creators like, nah man, just like I'm an artist, I'ma just make a video that talks to my heart and it's gonna go viral. And I'm like, no, if you don't plan anything, like you might get lucky, like you said, but the chances of like getting those reps in are very, very low because you're always changing. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and the thing is, like, you see so many examples of this working, right? But those
Mhm.
people worked really, really hard, right? And they had to work hard to figure this stuff out. And even some of these big creators, they don't know who their target audience is still, But like if you have someone that's like very brand focused that understands this kind of stuff, they'll be able to figure out like, oh, your target audience is this. And it's not like 14 to 17. It's not that. It's like, oh, this is the person that like shares has is a secret closeted weeb because like all their friends think like anime is weird, but they come home and they're able to find their community through your Twitch stream or through your YouTube content, and they're able to like celebrate themselves and see themselves in you, right? Like that is your target audience, and that like, and it could be multiple people, like multiple different like demographics, but like that's your target audience, and they might not know that, but they've done so much work. They like brute forced through all this stuff with a lot of effort, right? And we can skip that by just like listening to people that are smarter than all three of us combined that have studied this and just like yoink and twist it.
I love that. I like you said, like there's experts, like put the experts who know what they're doing in the place to like succeed, and you'll succeed because you're just trusting people. Sabin, because you also post content for like so many different demographics, right? Like different target audiences because you're doing like contract work. What are your thoughts and or questions around like how do you go about making like thinking about a target audience as an editor, or like any questions you have like from Sam's perspective, like you're the editor and Sam's like kind of orchestrating like questions that would help you or things that you would ask about that.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to know like what's one of your favorite type of videos to work on? Like are you more focused on gaming content or do you prefer the IRL type of stuff? Do you like working with the players or content creators? I'd love to know more about like you on the producer side, what you enjoy doing specifically.
Yeah, this is something I'm exploring as well. Um
That's such a trick question because it's like asking who your favorite kid is, dude. I love Sabin.
no, this is like I love being on this podcast and talking to people because this is like a therapy session. You guys are bringing
Hey,
unlocking doors I've never
we'll do it
realized.
weekly, man. Just bring your insurance next time and I'll run it. Make sure you're in network. Yeah, we're totally not qualified to do that, but
Yeah, I think this is something that I haven't gotten to do in a bit, especially at EG. But I like helping other people, like lift other people up, right? So I really liked working with content creators on their own individual YouTube channels. The problem with that was some of them like didn't really care or weren't invested in like their YouTube channels. They're like, "Oh, I'm streaming. I'm a streamer. I have to be on Twitch." I'm like, I mean, everyone's heard it. Like, you don't grow on Twitch on Twitch. You grow on Twitch on every other platform but Twitch, right? So that was a big roadblock. But like being able to create something for their fan bases that they love, because like those are some like really rabid fans and like tight knit communities, and making stuff for people that are really passionate about that. Like that's what I really, really enjoyed. So it's like taking a YouTube channel and like making social clips from that, making helping them get their stream and making YouTube content from that. Like I really enjoyed that, and that's something I haven't done in a while. Um, the stuff that I'm working on now has been like, how do I put these random creators that we've signed that have like nothing in common except their love for gaming, and make a channel about them with limited resources, with scheduling conflicts, with not full buy-in from the creators because they're all really focused on their own personal brands, right? That's like a huge challenge, which is really exciting for me that like because it sounds really difficult and it has been extremely difficult, and I don't know if there's a solution, but I'm gonna I'm gonna die or get fired trying or whatever, right? Yeah, but I really do like working on stuff for fan bases that really like it. Like I really like making content for like the super geek of that person, of that content, of that game, those kind of things.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Sam, you can always flip a question on Sabin just to get back at him. Sabin, what's your favorite piece of content to make? You edit a lot. You have to
Meme
actually answer this.
compilations. Meme compilations.
Meme compilations, nice. The ones on the 20-hour loops that make like
Yeah,
crazy revenue.
like screaming cat
Yeah.
on loop. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Dude, like Sam every time he talks gives me like 20 more things to unpack, and I'm like, damn, dude, like what? Like okay, all right.
You know,
So
I keep it 10. I keep my comments dense, so you'll have a lot more
I
audience
know you're
retention,
doing my
repeat
job.
viewership.
Yeah, you're doing my job for me, dude. Like this is
This
great.
is
Sam,
the
if you want to
content
like
Bible.
produce, man, you know, like it'll be, um, So you talked about starting a job, kind of your workflows and processes, like your struggles, not struggles, but like obstacles that like a lot of people don't think about, right? This is something that I know Saban can relate to, having worked with talent. I know I can absolutely relate to working with talent, and how uh, at least some are focused on their personal brands. The others are just like, when's dinner? So Sam, when we're talking, I think this is interesting because at some point you're gonna have to work with talent. Like in I don't know, there's like a lot of solo creators out there, but I think that at some point you're gonna cross another creator, whether it's a collab or just whatever. What I'm trying to think here. What would you say is the hardest? What are some of the biggest obstacles, like the obvious ones? And then like how do you work through without getting yourself in trouble? Like how do you work through like personality conflicts? Like what when a talent tells you like, nah, like do you just not make the video? Like talk me through like how your brain works with stuff like that. You don't have to give up anybody. But just in general, like I've worked with talent who just like doesn't know how to like not look at the camera, like like basic things because they just aren't exposed.
hmm Yeah. Obviously, it's never happened. Everyone I've worked with has been amazing.
Right. This is all
There's no one to
hypothetical.
call out.
It's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
hypothetical.
Hypothetically, no, seriously, this is a problem. Especially with esports players because they're there to be the best athlete or competitor or whatever you want to call it, like there is, and some of them don't really care about the brand. They think that competing is gonna just be good enough, which is not true. And it can be really difficult. Uh, I haven't run into too many like really really detrimental problems. I think what I have learned is to like this is dangerous because I'm gonna get into analysis paralysis mode, right? Like I keep myself up at night trying to figure out like what are the things that are gonna go wrong, like what, and I think something that an exercise that I've done with my boss and that I've done before is like you close your eye, like before something's happened, you close your eyes and be like, what went wrong? It's over. What went wrong? Right? And then you go, okay, how bad is that? Is there anything we can do about that right now? Right? So just having the a little bit extra forethought of just like what can go wrong and then how do you solve that is really important. So, for example, we're like, hey, we're gonna have you do a competition where you eat gross food. Nothing's gonna go wrong there, right? Maybe I should have checked with the talent, like, hey, do you have any food allergies? Are you okay with this content idea? Just act surprised when we bring it out on content, like in front of the camera, right? Um, having that for, and this is also experience. This is why you have to fail, right? This is why you like knowing that you've produced a show for 2 years means that like you've run into OBS issues, you've lost footage of your guest on a podcast, and then I had to ask them to come back on again for like these things happen and you've learned. So now you're less likely to do them again, right? So understanding what can go wrong and then just doing the best you can to avoid it, I think is like number one, right? Now, things are going to go wrong. Things always go wrong. And when you have difficult talent, like I think you learn and you just have to be realistic about like who they are, what the expectation is. Even just reframing your mind of like how important is this? Like if we only have 30 minutes with them, is that okay? Like what content can we get? If we have crappy content with this person, but we just need to get it done and like no one will care, like maybe that's okay, right? And only your boss cares. Like it sucks. It really sucks, but maybe like that's what you have to tell yourself to get through the day. Um yeah, setting the right expectations and then just like being able to pivot and understand like how like what is really important in this. And that might be like, dude, you need to sit down and get through this and we need to do this. And then it's just like interpersonal skills, which that's like really hard to learn. I know there's like the book How to Win Friends and Influence People or something like that.
Oh,
Like,
Dale Carnegie, How to Win
yeah,
Friends and Influence People. Amazing
yeah,
book. Super cheap.
that's a it's a great book. It was funny. I think after reading that, I realized like, oh, I know how to interact with people because like it was not like a crazy eye-opening experience for me. And then I'm like, oh, people don't know this stuff. like, oh, this is a really important book for some people. And there are some really good nuggets in there, even if you haven't, even if you feel pretty confident. I think like getting a Spark Notes version of it or like a YouTube summary of it is really good because it like identifies and labels some of those things. But yeah, in the moment, you just need to know how to talk to talent and creators who are also a different species compared to like normies. But I mean, none of us are normies either. Um, yeah, and just understanding how to work through that, and that's a lifelong thing.
I mean, yeah, dude, you like everything you're saying is throwing me back through like war flashbacks because I'm like thinking of every single botched production I like have ever set up. Uh, and when you're in the moment, it's like terrifying because you're like literally failing, and there's like there's talent and crew, and maybe your boss is watching. Like, there's a lot of pressure on it. So everything you said, I was like in there in the moment. Um, you brought up how to win friends and influence people. Like, you actually read a book. That's pretty cool to begin with. If you guys don't like reading, I highly recommend like audiobooks. I have a long commute, so I listen to audiobooks. But getting to that book without like directly quoting, because like I can't directly quote one, what's just like one just quick nugget from that book that kind of like just stuck with you? And it could be the smallest thing.
Man, do I have a nugget?
And if you don't have a nugget, it's fine because it's like probably embedded in you now when you're interacting with talent.
No, I think one thing that there's a lot of good ones. One thing that I has stuck with me, which is really obvious, is people love talking about themselves and love to be the main character in their lives, right? So just like if you want people to talk, or if you want people to like you, try. Hopefully it's easy to like find a genuine interest in them and to know more about them. Ask them questions about themselves because like if you ask them questions about their opinion of the current economic state or like what they think about the latest Valorant patch or like those kind of things, like maybe they know, maybe they don't have an opinion, but everyone can talk about like something about their lives, like right, like oh, like maybe you get too personal, I don't know, but like you can figure things like how's your day, oh what games do you like to play, like oh like I saw your YouTube channel is like doing really well, like how's it going, like ask, I mean you should ask more specific questions but asking questions about them for them to talk about themselves, I think is like top notch. Like people are like, I don't know why I like Sam, but I like him. I don't know anything about him because I talked about myself the whole time. But like, something about him just makes me feel like good because they gotta brag and talk about themselves. People like talking about themselves.
Dude, that is
That's
the
why I like
secret.
podcasts.
Dude, that's what like I know Saban and I have been talking about a podcast like a while, and everybody's like, do you get nervous when you reach out to guests? And I'm like, no, man, everybody loves to freaking talk about themselves. Why would I be nervous? Like, I'm just asking some dude I look up to a bunch of questions that like I've just had in general, and I just stream it. Like, I'm not too nervous. But them leaving then with being like, "Oh, Sam is such a nice guy. You didn't say any words. You didn't have to." Dude, that's really good. Saban, have you ever read How to Influence People? I didn't have to read it in school, but like, have you ever
Uh,
crossed it?
I was homeschooled, so no, I haven't come
I
across
don't
it.
know what the homeschool curriculum is, but I feel like your parents, I having interacted with them no times whatsoever. I feel like your parents would be the ones like, "Hey, read this and then go take care of the chickens." I hit a
That's
chord.
accurate. Accurate childhood experience right there.
Saban, do you have any questions for Sam about like any of what he was just saying about like interacting with talent? I know you have a lot of similarities with him on that. Like any questions like burning a hole in your pocket about like any of that?
Yeah, I'd like to know what one of your upcoming goals in content is. Like, as far as working with EG or personally, like, what are you wanting to do, right? What are you aiming for that you would like to accomplish this year or next year, or just something like that you're excited
Uh,
about?
yeah, so I mean, like, I have a lot of personal goals in the back of my head about content that I really don't know if they should be my goals. Like, life is busy, it's gonna get busier, and like honestly, like stressing out about how to fit in content in my life like might not be the move for me right now. Which I'm glad I made that decision a while ago, like at like whatever time I stopped. But so I'll speak about EG. Like I forgot. I wrote this. I think it's on my YouTube channel, like bio. Like I said, 35-year journey to be like the esports content person. I totally forgot I wrote that. I didn't believe it, but I needed to shoot somewhere and like aim for the stars and land on the moon, whatever. So I got into esports. Yay. I really think I have the audacity and ego to think like I can solve esports content issues for EG. Probably wrong, but I have something valuable there. I think has a lot of really smart, good people, and EG has hired non-endemic people into the space, which I think is like smart and risky. And I've seen both sides of this argument personally, so I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. But uh, I think it's going to be really hard for us to make good content on our lean during this like really difficult economic time to like make really good content that people in esports are going to like, right? But now I get to be a part of some of that, and I want to put EG on the radar again because like luckily competitively we're doing pretty well. We got into VCT, which is a huge deal, right? So
Hail.
we have some eyes, but like man, EG Dota, EG Counter Strike used to be like crazy big, and it's the oldest esports org, and I'm like, honestly, I just want esports to live. I want it to survive and do well, and I want to be a part of fixing that and making sure that esports is around for like if my kid, whoever my kid will be, like if they want to go into esports, they can, and it's not a risky, stupid, hair pulling like industry. I want it to be a good industry. I want gaming to be a good industry. So honestly, my big thing is like I want to prove not only to myself, the EG, and the community that like we can still have good content. I think esports content kind of sucks right now. Um, yeah, I think it kind of sucks. I don't watch it anymore because I've gotten bored. Um, so I want to make it interesting again. I want to make it good, and I also want to prove like you don't. I want to show like what YouTubers have shown, like Ryan Trahan, who like filmed his Penny series on an iPhone. Like you don't need to have a 7-man crew to hold a boom mic and do all these crazy stuff. Like you can make something with $100 budget or no budget and make it good and get lots of views. And that's how we can make esports at least sustainable during this time. I kind of want to prove that and show that and stop like I want to point to it. Like, hey, it happened there. I did that. We did that. I want that because I also want to be working at EG for a while. I don't want EG to just die, esports to just die. Riot's doing a great job with LCS right now. Yeah, so I honestly like my content goal. Sorry, that was like long winded. I care. um, my goal is like really to turn it around in a stupidly fast period by just like making actually good content and stop like I think at this point we can stop experimenting. Like, yes, we need to always like experiment, but like we've learned a lot. I mean, EG's channel has like 10 years of data on it. Like, how much more do we need to like? We know some things and we know things that we shouldn't be doing. Like,
Yeah.
and there's new people, which like circles in and out. So we keep making the same mistakes over. And I'm like, I am uniquely placed where I know some of these things, and I'm dangerous because I'm corporate and esports, right? I'm a dangerous double-edged sword. So like, I want to do something about that and not like let this slip through my fingers because that's some of it's on me, some of it will be out of my control. It'll be a tragedy if like I have a vision, I feel confident about it, not execute it, and then things fail. But yeah, I really want EG's channel to turn around because I think I want to prove it. I just want to prove it.
Dude,
My
that's
stupid
so
ego.
that's so stinking casually dangerous. That's what I'm saying. Like because like you're so passionate, you apologize. Don't ever apologize for like talking about how passionate you are.
It's just a fake apology.
Yeah, I know. It's all for clout, man. It's all for clout. You're like, "Oh, he'll cut that up in post and it'll look really good." What what really like resonated with me was like you kept saying like good content, right? You're like, "I'm going to make good content." Like it's time for good content. Uh with our last like 10 minutes, because like we got real deep there. What, and this is like completely out of the barrel. It's an ideal world, right? Economics don't apply. Tomorrow you get the keys to the kingdom. What is good content? Like, how do we do good esports content? What does that vision look to you? And that's like super big. But like, what's an image that kind of pops into your head?
So I talked about this in a meeting today because we had a meeting about original content. And like, I don't think this is all esports content, but the first thing that comes to mind is like, let's see these docuseries, right?
Return to the docu-series. Thank you for saying it, dude. I've been putting it on my IG stories.
This is the thing though, like
They're hard to produce, man.
they're hard to produce. And I would love to have this challenge, like of our team or whoever we hire. I don't know what it's going to look like. But like, do not put the results of the game in the piece. Like, if it hinges on if you win or lose, we have lost like the story. Like, the story's not good. I recently got through this audiobook. It's funny that I could keep talking about these books because I don't read at all. It's Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. And I'll never forget the name because it's so memorable. He talks about stories being it's all about a 5-second moment, the 5-second transformation, right? And the story, that transformation gives you the beginning of your story. It's the exact opposite, right? So the example he gives is Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is not about dinosaurs. It's not about dinosaurs. That's a hook. That's the interesting part. The story is about a guy at the end who is embracing 2 kids that he like cares about and loves now. At the beginning was talking to a kid about like how a velociraptor would slice him open and how he never wants kids, right? That's the whole premise. The 5-second moment is when he's like, I love kids now and I can be with like this woman I'm interested in because like she wants kids and I didn't, right? That's Jurassic Park. So I think about esports. First of all, if win or lose, that's a determination of a good series, then only one team in the LCS gets that. Only one team globally gets a good story then, right? That's done. And oh my gosh, we've had traditional sports has been around longer than esports. And esports is probably copying everything that traditional sports has done. Like the storylines have been said. So I want a story that like has 5-second transformation. Make a really simple outline. You just make a format and just copy it over and over and over again until everyone's tired of it, and just milk it for what you can. But like have nothing to do with the results of the game. Like I think if everyone's story is about the results of the game with some exceptions, I'm sure. And like it's a setup. You already lost. It's not going to be interesting unless you win or you have some tragedy that happens, and then you put like your player that screwed up on blast, and then it's like a sob piece, right? But if you're able to like actually make like some type of subject about esports content to really resonate and make the audience feel something again, which is probably going to be about a player's journey. Imagine that. It's not original, but like actually have that like feeling happen. Like I think that's gonna win. And that's I said like I want us to do that in EG content. I have no idea how to do it right now. We don't know the storylines. At least we know our players, I guess. But I think we can really dig hard and think about it and mull over it. And like not, and also I do not want it to be, which is tricky with partners because we need to make money too. If you have a docuseries that's partnered, I don't want to be restricted to like we need to make one a week. Like I've been doing stats, and the docuseries episodes that do well are episode 1, week 1, and finals, or when you get eliminated. Like those are and then everything else is like the lowest viewed content on like their channels. So like maybe you don't do it weekly. Maybe you spend a little bit of time crafting the story. You can't make it perfect, or else it'll never be released. But like, yeah, just like tell a good story, release it in a cadence that it needs to be released, or in a random cadence, and just make somebody feel something. And Shepherd is that book was Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. I don't remember if that's the correct name of the book. I'm pretty sure it is, but Matthew Dix, just Google that carefully and you'll be fine.
we are not
Very
not
important.
financial advice. Google that with your own
End this sentence with book, please.
yes, definitely add book. Dude, that was beautiful. Saban, you had to have had some from that. Like, so I got a lot out of because you envision like such a potential like it's like that meme of like everybody stopped using whatever and it's like the utopia meme. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
just describing the utopia and we all have like this vision, but there's like big blockers in the way. Saban, do you have any thoughts on like good content, like making good content in esports, or questions for Sam about that?
I think he made a really good point with the ones they care about most are where you start and where you're ending, and very little or very few actually care about the middle. One thing I'd like to know is like, do you have any other teams that you think make good content, like objectively, that you think make good looking stuff? I'd be interested to hear if you think there are any.
Oh man, I gotta like quickly
No,
check it
you're
on
totally
YouTube.
good. Yeah.
Hopefully it hits my homepage. Because
On the
honestly, like
spot.
I forgot that I've just like stopped watching esports content because I'm just like I don't care,
You're in your
and they're not
grind,
giving me.
dude. You're like
Yeah, yeah.
you're
It's
in your
also like
grind,
work.
and the content's been the same. Like, no offense, again, I'm not throwing shots, but having been out of the industry now for like I don't even know how long, a year, jeez, year and a
Mhm.
half. It is stale. Like every time I go, I'm like, oh shoot, I was doing that like 5 years ago, and I didn't know what I was doing. I guess we're still not knowing what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's the
We're just
tricky
like
part. Where
guessing, man.
yeah, I do think like I guess again, I've recently been doing like a data haul and like looking at content and auditing some channels. And right now it's been just Valorant and LCS, and I have to do this with CS:GO as well. Um, let's see. I think I actually like what Cloud9 and Team Liquid look like they're doing, where they're like they are experimenting a ton. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of their interesting content is like fluffy, right? But it's entertaining. It gets to show the players' personalities. It's also like I respect that, hey, that's easy to record and you're not dropping bags to like record that and hoping that it has a return or like yeah, it's just like you have two players sitting at a computer reacting to something because people want to know their thoughts about that specific thing. Like it gives the audience what they want, right? So I think like they had a lot of like crappy, or I shouldn't say crappy videos, but like because I didn't actually watch them, but low viewed videos. But it's because like they were experimenting. They had some over 200,000 views because like they just hit right for some reason, luck, or like they really were planning it in strategy. But I also, this is a weird one, but uh FlyQuest old like stuff was actually
Oh, the OG FlyQuest, dude. I
like
loved OG FlyQuest. Their
they
merch, every merch drop they put. I fangirled over FlightQuest for a solid month when I was doing esports stuff.
Yeah, so they're like they know that like, hey, we are not relevant and we're gonna do some weird ass stuff and we're gonna try. And I respect it. And some of like I was surprised that some of it did like really, really well. And it makes me sad that some of it didn't. Honestly, most of their content wasn't for me either, but I like mad respect for like whoever's doing that. And then also I think I haven't dug too much into this, but NRG's Valorant channel is like
Yeah.
I think what everyone wants with like content creators and like their esports teams. So I think they're being really smart, creative. They're hitting something. And again, like I haven't watched a lot of their content. I've watched some of it. Some of it's for me, some of it's not. But numbers don't lie. And looking at it, like then again, it might be like super expensive to have that much talent on the screen maybe. Like I mean, everyone thought 100 Thieves is doing really, really well, and they've had two layoffs this year, or two layoffs within like the last 6 months. So I don't know what the business side of that stuff looks, but like Energy is making like content that's hitting people. So hitting people. That might have been the wrong way to say
In a
it.
good
Yeah.
way, of course. We're
Yeah.
we're a non-violent podcast.
Sure.
Yeah, they are there are a couple notable orgs out there definitely trying. It's just like for me, like you said, like how many years of data do you need? And something that like I've learned in just recent years of just doing like of totally shifting the way that I think. If I were to go back into esports now and run like an Overwatch team or a COD team or something like that, I would totally do it. I would do it entirely different than like all of the esports orgs are. Like I would literally be taking their live streams and like writing the other bits. It would be
You know,
wild.
can I drop a hot take? Another
Yeah,
hot
I
take?
love
My
hot
last hot
takes.
take. So I think this is something I've thought about recently. I thought about it a while back, and I didn't realize I was doing it when I was looking for freelance editors. I think someone should hire content creators as their production team and editing team that are like, I don't know, 5K subscribers, 10K subscribers, like the ones that are really hustling and that like really care. And that should just like be the content team. They should be filming, recording,
Yeah.
maybe even hosting content, because they'll have the grind. They're living and breathing like content, right? This could be maybe TikTok, this could be like other platforms, but that would be really interesting because also I think I've been thinking about like these big YouTubers like MrBeast, Ryan Trahan, all these people, they all started like themselves, right?
Mhm.
So how do you make a profitable business when you're just yourself? Like that is one salary, and then you grow and grow, and you can pay more, and like you could do more. But like, what's the return on investment for like Mr. Beast or Ryan Trahan, right? I'll say Ryan Trahan because he has like a much smaller team, right?
Mhm.
It has to be ginormous because his expenses are so low. And then I think, okay, esports teams are going in and they're like, we invested in this team that's kind of popular, and we're gonna bring in like we're gonna make amazing content. So we're gonna hire a 10-man like group to make content around that. I'm like, so how are you gonna get that return on investment on entertainment on YouTube? Like, yeah, you can get partners, but so can like solo creators. They can get partners if they grow big enough. And I'm like, wait, these numbers don't feel right anymore. So what if just got a creator to be your studio team? That's scary. But if one person can grow their channel to 1 million subscribers, couldn't 3 people that are really driven, that care about YouTube, that like can be a crazy think tank, that could be dangerous, that have that drive and motivation, could they make a 1 million subscriber YouTube channel out of like other talent and other content that hopefully they care about? I don't know. I think it's a scary thing, especially if like, I mean, we're editor production people here, right? But I'm just like, like I realized like I was looking for freelancers that are content creators because I wanted them
Yeah.
to come up with ideas. I wanted them to bring their personality to the edits. I wanted to be like, let's brainstorm an idea and then you do it. And I will like help you guide some things and pay you, but like I want you to do it and so I can focus on other stuff because I'm supposed to like I need to like 100x my value to like be profitable in esports, and that's like impossible. So, yeah, that's one thing I was thinking about.
Dude, that's really giving the keys to the kingdom to like just it just sounds like another 100 Thieves like mob setup. Where like
Mm.
you pimp out a house, you give them the stuff, and then like Nate Shot has to go over and be like, guys, where the hell's the content? Like it's been 6 months, and they're like, oh, we didn't buy a
Yeah.
camera yet. Like,
So they
but
need a
on the
babysitter. They need a
yeah,
babysitter.
you need to
You're right.
hire
You're
a
right.
baby. If you're gonna do it, then odd man out is high. We have babysitting services, remote, not sponsored. Dude, you have such amazing insights, and I feel like I could talk to you for like literal hours.
Right.
Before we close out, I like to give the opportunity. We've never had a guest before, but this is something that like I don't see any a lot of podcasts doing, and it's you get to now interview us for a question because like it seems like you don't get to have conversations with other like producers and editors. So I want to give you an outlet, Sam. You get a free question for both me and Sabin, and we will answer it to the best of our capabilities. And maybe collectively we'll sound like one human who has achieved
Right.
something.
Yeah. Okay.
And you
So,
can take your time.
this was a question for both of you. And I want this might I don't know if it's like a question answer. Hopefully it might be a collaborative brainstorm. Collaborative? Did I just say that? Collaborative
That's a word.
brainstorm.
Totally.
Like what's the big content problem right now that you guys are facing? Whether it's for like this podcast or if it's like whatever you're doing yourself.
Mm,
Because let's get like to the thing that only one person cares about right now, or like
yeah.
only the three of us care about. Like what is the problem that like what is your big problem right now, content wise?
I'll let Sabin start because we're going to have two totally different answers.
I think probably a mixture of trying to make enough content while making it engaging and like progressively better over time. But actually, I'm just gonna stick with that one. I'll just stick with that one.
Just the quantity.
Just a quantity
Okay. Yeah, that's
and
really
keeping
different
quality.
in
So
quality.
what do you think? What's the solution right now? What are you thinking?
Right now, I think honestly, just kind of trying to get a quantity over quality is the better start for us. We'll get more
Mhm.
content out there, and then that'll get seen more, and then if it looks all right, that'll be potential viewership right there. But I think it's something to keep in mind of making sure all of them are still at like a good enough level while pumping out that quantity.
Yeah. So I'm gonna talk like I have the answer, but I have no idea. I'm struggling with this too.
We'll take
Um,
all of your input, man.
yeah, I digest. I guess I digest too much stuff. I was listening to. Have you ever seen the Colin Amir podcast? Colin Amir.
Love
Lord
Colin and
Molly.
Samir podcast. I listen
Thank you,
to
thank you.
everything they put out because if you don't listen to that, like, dudes, it's like a blueprint after blueprint of just success.
Yeah, so the latest episode was with Caleb Simpson, who is the guy that goes in New York City asking, "Hey, how much do you pay for rent?" and then like goes into their apartment to see it out, right? He was talking about the thing I love about the biggest thing I got from there is like he has a formula. He has a format. And I've heard this so many times, so maybe this is like finally like the fifth time that it's clicked and I'll probably forget it and then remember it again. Um like nothing's original anymore. It's like super sad, right? But I think especially if we're trying to increase output while keeping quality is like you figure out the format, you test things out, but once you hit it, you stick with it. And maybe the way you make it better is like you have a system and process so you can just plug and go faster and faster and faster, right? If you know like act 1, act 2, act 3 in like a 60-second short and this is our format, like then it's super easy to find the content too. Then you figure out like how do I make this 1% better every single time, right? So you can make like little tweaks, watch the analytics, and then eventually like have that big pivot because like you just need to reinvent yourself and like to keep up with things and not become irrelevant. I think that's thing. Like you figure out the process and format and just milk it. And then
Hmm.
and you start try to figure out how to make it better and better and better until it's like, okay, it's time to move on. And hopefully you've like set some other experiments because like then if you set it, you don't have to use 80% of your brain power on it anymore. You could outsource it because you have a formula and just say like do
Hmm.
exactly this and this is what I'm paying you for. And maybe you can give some creative freedom to it or something. And then you could spend most of your brain power experimenting, finding that next format that works. I think that is like how I'm starting to think about it because I'm struggling with that same thing. Like, how do you just increase output while not making crappy content? I don't know.
Dude, that's like the best insights too. It's like it's one of those things where like you're just grinding it, and you guys like your hands are on it every day, and you're just like super super connected to like the process, so you can
Hmm.
kind of feel your way through it. My struggle in content with I'll use us as an example. Um, totally not quantity output. Like, could not care less. Like, if I'm putting a video out a week, like, don't care about the cadence. Saban's mind is in the right place because he has like we have that growth mentality. Like, my goal is like 50K by summer on this channel, but not for the number. It's because I know what I can do with that number to then give more value to people that need this information. Because I know from a scaling business, like you said, my brain is always on like how do we make the processes efficient. So like how do I make Saban edit? How do I help Saban edit faster, right? And then once we get
No,
that
you
in
mean make
place,
him. You mean
yeah,
make him.
make
You
them.
need
Come
like a
on,
whip.
Saban.
You need a whip or
Yeah,
something.
right, definitely. No, but like once Saban figures out the flow and he gets it, like my next task is like how can I fire Saban as quickly as possible from that role, right? Because Saban's time is more valuable to me doing way more than like the editing. Like there are people who are
Mm.
very talented editors that just their goal in life right now is to make money, and I can fulfill that goal while I struggle with this it sounds really boring and industrial and commercial, but it's like scalability. So like how can I take this process that Saban and I are building and package it as cleanly as I can, because one day I'm literally going to give this to somebody. Like I'm going to give all of this information away and like somehow and we're building that right now. So it's not like people are like, oh yeah, you're just vain. You want 100K or 50K. It's like, it's because I know at 50,000 subscribers that I can get an X size sponsor to provide game like editing setups for a viewer.
Mhm.
Like I know what I can do with that, but it's like, okay, how do we get there? And I work a full-time job, but like,
Oh yeah,
right? So
it's
like
so
I'm
hard.
producing for agency work, but me and Saban all day are like back and forth about like podcast, guest, cuttings, like he's working on short form, I'm working on long form. Like quantity is not an issue for us. It's how do we not burn ourselves out because we know it's a long game, you know?
H- how do you guys feel about the idea of patience?
We're in it. We're in it. But I also believe, and this is going to sound super ego, like my ego talking here. I believe that with the right experience, you can get to have true success. It's going to take us 18 months to like if we wanted to take this show and only do this show, like Saban and I could make this the full-time career in 18 months. Like I know that for a fact. I know within 90 days I can build a blueprint on how to monetize a podcast, so that I can then go teach college students right now to go do that. And that's the incentive for me. Saban, what about you? Do you have do you agree with
Like,
our
yeah,
incentives
I
or
generally agree
disagree?
with
I don't
you
know.
guys'
Saban's my co-host.
incentives. Yeah, no, my incentives are not nearly as cool, it sounds like. So I
No,
think you
no,
guys have a lot more well thought out.
no. But Saban's like it's interesting, right? Because like Saban started for me as like my intern in like the collegiate space, but now Saban has been becoming a producer like you, Sam. Like Saban is now hitting that level of like conceptualizing an idea for an audience, and then even to the point where like I would feel confident in Saban giving notes to like a contracted worker, right? So it's like he is
That's
like in
awesome.
my mind your ideal audience. So I'm like speaking to that, but then you're my ideal audience because I'm like this guy's a nerd like me. Like he just wants to make content, not suck. But phenomenal. These are like that was a really good question. I hope we answered it somewhat
Yeah,
professionally.
yeah. I mean, I honestly just wanted to like chit chat and like think about like what are these problems? How do we solve that? I have
Dude,
no
we got to
idea, but
do a
let's like
round
bump
table
heads.
podcast. Have you ever seen that 70s show where the thing spins
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when they're
yeah,
on the
yeah.
table? I wanted
Yeah.
to build that, but for a podcast, like, and you spin it and you're like, all right, Sam, like, boom, tell me your like worst, like whatever, the worst client you work for. Boom, we spin the carousel. We'll make it all smoky and everything.
Yeah, and then everyone will get like motion sickness. It'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, like you said, that Zoomer brain. But
Actually,
we're
though,
gonna
yeah.
have to do a part 2 or like have to do another session. I have an appearance tomorrow morning. Like I'm getting up at 6. But before we go, I wanted to take this time, Sam, and get your closing thoughts before we plug you. Any words you want to give to an audience, somebody who's looking to get into content creation? Um, Free realm to get any message across that you want.
Yeah, I think this is so stupid because the first thing is always like just make it, but that's what everyone says, but it's so stupid because like that is literally what you need to you just need to make and fail. I think the thing is like this was one of those turning points for me is just like, hey, your first 20, 50, 100, 200, they're going to suck. Your first videos are going to suck. So but the thing is you can't make a good video until you do that. So get the 200 videos out of the way and make sucky content because you have to do it's like if I want to get if I want to get a college degree, I have to go through elementary school, middle school, high school, or homeschool and like pass whatever tests and things. Like you need to do that before you can get a college degree. Like that's just what you have to do. Same thing. If you want to be a good content creator, you have to make bad content. So just like, give yourself the freedom and forgiveness to make 100 bad pieces of content and then start focusing on making good content.
I love it.
Perfect.
I love the it sounds like a cliche, but like we're not lying. Like literally it's not. It's like just 90% of people just can't start, which is amazing advice to keep drilling into people.
Yeah, the freedom to like fail, I think that was the biggest thing. Like just you have to do 50 reps, 100 reps, and like that is acceptable. That is success. Making 50 crappy videos is success.
Hell yeah, I love it. Saban, I want to get your last thoughts, takeaways from the podcast, things you liked, things you didn't like, what you're walking away with today.
Yeah, I thank you, Sam, just in general for talking with us. It's been great. I think I learned a lot about your experience in esports, which is great because I think even though we've all worked in esports and had similar experiences, we've also all had very different ones at the same
Mhm.
time, just working with different orgs. So thank you for all of your experiences. And I think this has given a lot of insight just on how like EG's trying to do things, which is really cool because that's an org that I haven't personally worked with at all. Uh, yeah.
Amazing.
Give me your contact info and portfolio. I
Hell
mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll
dude.
wait for Danny to leave.
Saban's, yeah, I won't. I'll leave. Don't worry. But yeah, Sam, I just want to say thank you again. You were an amazing first guest. Like, you seriously spoiled us today. We definitely need to get you back on. Maybe we do a chit chat kind of thing next time. Like, little, they know you now. The audience is like, damn, when can I get more Sam? Everybody can follow Sam. Sam, where can everybody find you on the internet? Things that you're working, you can plug whatever you want here. It doesn't matter how many things or what you're plugging, just not things that'll get me in trouble.
Yeah, so my OnlyFans, no, I'm just kidding.
No,
Just hit
that won't get me in trouble. Let's go.
at Just Casual on Twitter. From there, you can find everything else. Like I stream and do YouTube every now and then. I need to get back on that, but Twitter's the best place. Like you can literally just DM me and those kind of things. My Discord like is on there too if you want to hit me up. So just like Twitter at Just Casual. That's the easiest thing. Everything from there like is easy to find if you know how to use the internet.
Amazing. And Saban, where can the fans find my boy Saban on the
Oh,
interwebs?
right below the webcam at Just Saban on Twitter is the best place to find me and all of my amazing dank meme edits. But what about you, Danny?
Thank you, Saban, for the handoff. You can follow me at Danny B Social, preferably on LinkedIn. I know I sound like a boomer now. It's terrible, but like I've really been liking LinkedIn. But yeah, guys, that is episode 5. We hope you guys enjoyed it. This was like our biggest. We had a bunch of people watching the whole time, Sam. So like you were captivating. These are record numbers for Odd Man Out. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you follow Odd Man Out Studio at Odd Man Out Studio on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and now we have a Facebook page. We don't care about Facebook. No, I'm just kidding. It's just auto uploading. But until next time, guys, go start making videos so when we get Sam on again, you can give him your results. All right, peace.